Okay, so I very recently published a video regarding the split between Bungie and Activision and how Bungie would retain the rights to Destiny 2, and then I drew some parallels to Blizzard losing senior executives and a lot of different factors that were telling me that Activision is faltering and honestly imploding. Well, today it turns out we have some more news that really backs up that hypothesis and really, takes it a step further. Now, I'm not going to be scripting this video. I'm trying to put it out fairly quickly because it's hot news and Sunday is my day to relax with family. So I'm not scripting it. That would take a lot longer. But I do want to read a bunch of this article, talk about, the stock price, various other factors, and give my opinion on the recent events and how Activision really is falling apart at the seams as a publisher. So this headline has been cropping up everywhere, and a lot of different publications have different takes on it, and it's important to know that Activision Blizzard is just Activision. The fact that they call it Activision Blizzard baffles me. They also have a subsidiary company that they own, kind of a publisher, developer in and of itself, named Blizzard. So the fact that it's called Activision Blizzard, I don't really get that. It's just Activision. When I say Activision, I mean Activision Blizzard, and when most people say Activision, they mean the overarching publisher named Activision Blizzard that publishes all of these games. So just to get that out of the way, I'm not going to be saying the Blizzard part, and it really actually has nothing to do with Blizzard, the company, at all. It's just Activision. So let's read for a minute before analyzing the situation. We have Call of Duty publisher Activision Blizzard is under investigation for fraud after a claim was brought forth by the company's investors, and we'll talk about why that is in just a second. Currently, the law firm of Pomerantz LLP is gathering potential investors for a class action lawsuit, but as of yet, no official suit has been filed. Although the timing of the announcement would suggest that the investigation is related to Activision and Bungie's recent separation, which it really is, the press release does not mention any connection, though I'm almost guaranteeing you that connection is there. Still, Activision's stock did drop following the announcement that Bungie would split from Activision and take publishing rights for the Destiny franchise, which certainly didn't please the company's investors. Given that information, it's possible that investors called for the investigation in order to see how much Activision Blizzard knew ahead of the split and if that had an impact on the stock price. Another possibility is that stock shares were sold right before the split was announced, which would constitute insider trading. Now, let's explore the insider trading angle, because it's very important to look at the numbers here and understand how big it was when Destiny was announcing that and Bungie itself was announcing it would be splitting from Activision and retaining the rights to Destiny. So this right here, at $51.35 USD on Thursday, January 10th, is directly before the split was announced between Bungie and Activision and that Bungie would retain the rights to Destiny. Now, the market was closed, and when the market reopened, the stock price immediately dropped over a very short duration, all the way down to, within less than an hour, $45.48 USD, which is about a 10% drop. Now, a lot of people with a lot of money have a significant amount of funds invested in this company. They do not like to see, imagine if you had a $10 million, E-Trade account or whatever, or broker account, and, a large amount of that, multiple millions, or even just $1 million, or all of it, were invested in Activision Blizzard because, they've been so profitable for so long. And, you could look at the recent track record of this drop and say, okay, this is over. Maybe it's gonna recalibrate and direct upwards. So you have all that money invested, and you lose 10% in an hour. That is going to freak you out, and you are going to get very angry very quickly. And a lot of the people that have a lot of money don't have the temperament for losing 10% of that huge sum of money over the course of an hour. The other thing that's very important to think about is that there were a great deal of people within both Bungie and Activision that knew about this. There definitely were people that knew that this split was going to happen, and I almost guarantee you that they had large amounts of company stock that they could sell if they wanted to. So there were people that knew beforehand about the coming split, and it's very easy to tell what that split is going to do to a company. People aren't going to hear the news that Bungie retained the rights to Destiny, which is a multi-million-dollar game with tens of millions of players over time. It sold 50 million copies in DLC over the course of its existence, etc., etc. They're not going to hear that Activision no longer has the rights to that game and that Bungie is retaining Destiny and splitting away with, after only 8 years into a 10-year contract, they're not going to hear that news and think, wow, that must be because Activision is doing so well for themselves. No, they're going to think, wow, Activision is on a downward slope. That's crazy. They're not even at the end of their contract. They must be hemorrhaging money. This is really bad. And they're going to sell their stock, and it's going to have a huge impact. So the fact that people knew about this and absolutely knew that it was going to have a cratering effect on their stock price means that they could easily sell beforehand, which would constitute insider trading. And insider trading is something that's taken very seriously and is highly illegal. So it's very possible that within Activision, or within Bungie for that matter, there were people that knew about this, were holding Activision stock, and sold it. And if they did, then that justifies and warrants the investigation. Even if they didn't, I still think it's worth investigating, because something like this is has a rippling effect on the industry, and it's a very big announcement. Let's get back to the article now. The only thing that we can say for certain at this point is that Activision's officers allegedly participated in fraud or other unlawful business practices. It's a very broad claim that could possibly have huge ramifications for Activision if true, but could just as easily be swept away after some general questioning. Now, this is correct. We don't know for a fact, and I am, of course, making a lot of assumptions even while doing this video, but it's kind of fun to do at the same time, just analyzing these situations, even in a hypothetical way. We don't know for a fact if there was insider trading, or if there was fraud committed, or if there was any unlawful activity of any kind. However, accusations like this oftentimes have a negative downward effect on share price, even if they are proven to be untrue. In a market right now that is in a general recession in the tech industry, especially in the video game industry on a AAA level, an accusation like this can have downward pressure until it's proven false, and then not all of the ground that they lost while it was unproven could even be made up, potentially. So this is a very damaging thing to come, especially in the wake of Activision losing Destiny, losing Bungie, and then having all their other problems with Blizzard itself, having a slew of issues regarding Diablo Immortal and, fan displeasure there. There's a lot of stuff not going their way right now, and this definitely doesn't help. Let's read on. Nevertheless, it's fair to say that Activision has had a rough week. Though the split from Bungie seems to be amicable, many Destiny fans and even other publishers are excited by the prospect of Bungie operating apart from Activision. There is a belief among the community that Activision was pushing a lot of the unpopular features in Destiny, like Eververse and Season Passes, but it was only an assumption. In essence, Activision is what prevented Destiny from realizing its true potential. Now, I've heard a lot of different things regarding this topic, that Bungie was the ones that actually structured Destiny around the Eververse, which I don't really believe. They may have been complicit, but they definitely wasn't their idea to push Eververse that hard. I can't imagine it being the case. Now, if it was, I'll eat my words, but I really don't think so. Activision absolutely were the ones behind a lot of the monetization decisions. Now, that's not speculation, that's a fact. Activision has a long and proven track record of running franchises into the ground. A very good recent example, and I wouldn't know about this if I hadn't watched a Skill Up video, so all credit where credit is due. A recent example is the Guitar Hero franchise that they tried to reboot. If you want to know more about that, if you ever loved Guitar Hero, if you ever liked that game, check it out. But they ran that into the ground with their monetization. There's no way around that. There's no way to equivocate that. That is what happened. Now, I believe that that's what they were doing with Bungie and Destiny, and it's much less of a speculation than this paragraph makes it out to be. Now back to the final paragraph. Regardless, it's important to point out that Activision Blizzard is only under investigation. There is no active lawsuit, and Pomerantz is merely trying to grab investors for a potential class action. Now, true, there's no actual there's no actual lawsuit at this point. There's no charges being leveled against them, but an active investigation in and of itself is something. So yes, it hasn't progressed to the point of charges or, any sort of concrete legal action on the table yet. I think it quite likely will. But even if it doesn't, this is already a big deal for them. Activision isn't in a position to be able to sustain this. They're an abhorrent company that the community absolutely despises almost across the board for a lot of their different practices. They've alienated their Call of Duty crowd, which is one of their core central games and franchises and has been for a very long time and will continue to be. So alienating that crowd and that audience is a very big mistake. They've alienated the creator community. They've alienated pretty much anyone that has any sort of problem with microtransactions, which is a large majority of gamers, honestly, at this point. They've lost Destiny completely. Their most successful company, Blizzard, is in shambles at the moment. It's losing personnel, it's losing executives. They're paying people to leave the company to cut down on operating costs in the long term, with their short term cash burn not really being a consideration. It's all over the place. And then also, Blizzard fans are just unhappy with the products that Blizzard has been producing. The gameplay first motto of Blizzard itself, which used to be highly successful, is no longer something that's looked at as being truthful. A lot of players are unhappy with that. So Activision is in one of the worst positions of their lives, of their existence, and they have a long way to fall. So I did my video regarding Activision imploding, and this kind of just adds fuel to the fire. I believe that even more strongly now, because there really is no footing. It's like they're sliding down a hill, and it's a slippery hill. They really don't have anything to grab onto at the moment. Even if these actions, this investigation turns out to be false, if it turns out to be, completely incorrect, and all charges are never leveled or dropped or whatever, it will still have a downward pressure effect on their share price and just add fuel to the fire of the community at large and public reception viewing Activision as a dying creature. That's going to wrap it up, though. That's all the news that I had for today. Activision is under investigation for fraud, and it very likely has to do with insider trading. And I would not be surprised at all if there was insider trading or other illegal activity taking place. And I have to say, it's a little bit messed up, but I'm happy about this. I'm happy that Activision is getting what has been coming to them for a very long time. I think that AAA publishers on the level of Activision, I think there are other, companies that are on par with them, companies like EA and various other ones, Take-Two Interactive as well. I think that they deserve to have a real check and balance system, and honestly, they really need these ramifications, because they've spiraled out of control over the past years to the point where gaming has become something different, and it's changing so quickly you can almost witness it. A lot of the times when gaming changes, it happens slowly, and then you just wake up 3 or 4 years from now and say, hey, it's different now than it used to be. No, now we're watching it change on a nearly quarterly level. The whole landscape is shifting, the practices are progressing at a faster rate than they ever have before, and there really needs to be these types of bombardment effects against companies like Activision. So they deserve it. Hopefully the other publishers wake up, look at it, understand that they need to change their ways. What they've devolved into now, with the only care in the world being profit and not quality of product or release cycle window. They don't care about anything except how much money they're making, turning players into payers, that iconic statement. That's what they live by. Until they change those ways, it really isn't going to get better for them. At least I hope it doesn't. But yeah, I'll stop rambling there. Check out the links down below if you want to support the channel. This isn't like my typical content. Normally I would script everything and have a whole updated outline and a bunch of different points that I make that tie back in at the end, but I just figured I would go off script today and just do it off the cuff. Again, yeah, there's links down below if you want to support the channel, Discord server, Facebook group, our own gaming forums, and we're launching new merchandise. I want to say today, but it might end up being tomorrow, and then from here on out, I'll be advertising that and linking to it. So there might be a link to a new merch store in the description, over the next day or so, maybe not. We'll see, but yeah, I'll wrap it up there. Oh, and our own gaming forums, feel free to join us there and check those out. But yeah, I'll stop rambling there. Thank you for watching, and have a nice night.